Hey, everybody, listen. It's Monday. It's Monday night. It's trending topics. Yes, I'm late. I'm a little off of my time, but on Mondays I do my recap with Roy. Then I need to, get a little dinner in me before it gets too late. And then I had something else I had to do, but I figure I'll still come through. And whoever's hanging out with me, y'all hang out with me, okay? But it's trending topics. We got stuff to talk about. And we're gonna definitely be busy for these next, what is it? Maybe it's 6 weeks now, because the Diddy trial is going on. So we're gonna be busy. So we're here. We're gonna talk about some things. We're gonna get into it. The title is simple tonight for tonight's trending topics. It's called Wow. Wow. The Diddy trial update. I'm gonna give you an update on the Diddy trial. Just what's the name? Don Richard was on the stand again today. And the defense team poked a lot of holes in her stories. She was all over the place. But I feel the prosecution right now is all over the place. They're all over the place. They're not, I'm going to give you a video I listened to from TMZ. And there are some individuals like, I don't like TMZ. They're liars. I mean, how do you lie about the facts? I don't know. But, that's what people are saying. But anyway, I listen to TMZ. And they pretty much said that instead of the prosecution giving us a straightforward story, they're all over the place. 1 minute they hit in the target, the next minute they to the left, the next minute they to the right. But so far, they have not given us a solid, case against Diddy. If he was on trial for domestic violence, boom, we don't need 8 weeks. 2-3 days, we could have got this thing done and gave him his verdict. And perhaps a sentence. But that's not what he's on trial for. He's not on trial for domestic violence. And that's all we've been hearing so far. Heavy. It seems like to me the prosecution is doing what they was doing before he even got picked up in September. They're painting a picture that they want you to see of this evil, filthy, nasty 30 months, so that's what they calling him. And they're painting a picture and they want you to just say guilty based on that. It's not how the law works, though. If you saying I robbed the bank, when you got me in the courtroom, you got to prove that I robbed the bank. Yeah, you could bring up maybe I beat up my mother, my sister, my brother, my uncle, my cousin. Maybe I stole some candy from the local convenience store. But you still didn't tell the people how I robbed said bank. And there's other people that are saying, give the prosecution time because this trial's going to be, 8 weeks. What are you going to do? You going to hit the ball at the last inning? I don't know. Time will tell. But right now, yes, we understand. Diddy had a major problems with putting his hands on people. We understand that. If you want to say he's an a-hole, he's a jerk, he's disgusting, he didn't pay people. But we're going to need y'all to get to the racketeering piece of this. And I thought they said it's forced and coercion. We need you to get to that too. How can we come to a solid, without a shadow of a doubt, conclusion that Diddy coerced Cassie, and she was so afraid. When this girl lived in her own apartment, she had boyfriends on and off throughout their relationship. And I would just be curious to know that this man, he terrorized you. We know we did see the 2016 video. We did hear you and others say he put his hands on you. But if he terrorized you so bad, why is it in 2018 he said, all right, you can go? Just trying to figure that one out. Don Richard was on the stand saying this man was a monster. She saw this, she saw that. But in 2020, which was barely 5 years ago, because we're just in 2025, right? So even if we say 4.5 years ago, you was hitting them up talking about when can we work together. And she wanted to tell the people, well, the reason why I did that is because I needed work. Well, you could get work anywhere, sweetie. UPS hiring. Your local bus station hiring. There's people hiring. But you want to convince us that the only job you can get was with Diddy? You saw him, you called him a monster. You said you watched him beat on Cassie like a rag doll. And I'm paraphrasing. You said he threatened you, and you took that as he was going to unalive you. But still in 2020, you hit him up talking about when we working together again. And then at some point she said, can you sign me on as a single artist? And he said no. He said no. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to give the Diddy trial updates. The other thing I found fascinating and I wanted to talk about was when he went to New York to turn himself in. He didn't go to New York to see the Statue of Liberty. He didn't go to New York to take on the cultures, the museums, the parks. That's not what he went to New York for. He went to New York knowing at some point he was going to have to turn himself in. And in his hotel room was the cocoa and all kinds of other stuff. And yes, he had a session with baby oil. You know, if his obsession with the baby oil wasn't so sinister, he probably could have made a little a brand deal with them because he know he used that baby oil. He had baby oil with him. And he had a whole bag of money. Now, what I don't understand, and if y'all know the law out there, somebody please talk to me, because there was other people that was staying in his room with him. Why was the government allowed to seize that bag of money? What is that? What? I can't have a bag of money? Why was they allowed to take that money? I'm confused about that. Mark, can you tell us why they was allowed to take the money from your client? Yes, I see the substances. Absolutely. I can understand why they seized that. It's not legal. But why the money? So I did a video earlier and I said, Mark failed Diddy. He failed Diddy. Because Mark said out of his own mouth that he knew it wasn't a matter of if, but when an indictment was going to come down on Diddy after they raided his home. So, Mark, you knew that. You told your client that. You should have had your client in rehab up until the moment where they came and cuffed him up. He should have been sober. But no, he had all the stuff in his room. So that means when they picked him up, he probably was high as a kite. So yeah, I'm sure he was losing it that first night in jail. And you stayed with him. Because I'm sure at some point during that middle of that night or somewhere in between, he was winding down off of those substances. And he probably had it bad. And then not at day one, definitely by day two. I don't know how someone who is used to having so much stuff in their system even survived in the jail this long. I am completely and utterly shocked. I am. Let me see what you said, Shamika. I feel like everyone is looking at it from just the girlfriend perspective, but not that she was his employee. Artist, which he beat, not only his girlfriend, but also his artist. You know what though? The problem is, I'm gonna be honest with you. It is not our a job to look at it at this way or that way. It is the prosecution job to give us the story so they can tell us how we should be thinking and looking at this thing as. So the prosecution is not doing a good job if everybody is looking at it the way that you said. They should be coming out their mouth and saying, Cassie had a 10 album deal. But you know why they can't just say that? Because the waters are muddy. You know why on your regular job they don't condone and they don't like when co-workers start dating each other? For this reason right here, the deal with Cassie and Diddy. When you start dating your co-worker, the lines get blurred. That's why jobs don't like it. That's why when you go to fill out a job application, they be like, do you know anybody that work here? Does your mother work here? Your father work here? Your cousin? Who do you know? And they do not like when relatives are supervising each other. So Diddy and Cassie together blurred the lines between artist and employee. Because they should have never got together and slept together, but they did, so here we are. So although, and I hope I'm saying your name right, Shamika, although I don't disagree with you, the problem is the prosecution, they have the onus on them to give us the thought process that they need us to go into. Child. They got Dawn on the stand and they read her for filth. They dragged her from the front of the courtroom to the back. But can I also tell you this? This shows you the prosecution's case too. If the best you got to get on this stand is a Dawn Richard and she don't even got her story straight, it's problematic. You said this man was horrific. You should have good witnesses lined up back to back to get on that stand and do a slam dunk on this situation. But they don't. Because they're reaching for this RICO and racketeering, and they probably should have just came up with some other charges and it would have been a slam dunk. And maybe the prostitution piece would have been a slam dunk, but they wanted to railroad them. They want to do RICO charges. And you like, where's the RICO? Where's the enterprise? You think RICO, you think the mob. You don't think Diddy, who's doing music, got a liquor deal. You don't think that. I done told y'all all of his lawyers is to discredit every witness, and that's exactly what they're doing. That's all they need to do because it's called reasonable doubt. And that's the instruction they're going to get from the judge at the end of the day. If you got a reasonable doubt that he is not guilty, you're going to have to say not guilty. Your Dawn left the stand with zero credibility. Zero. Because it sounds like she's mad. She's mad because she didn't get a record deal. She's mad because she wants that money. She's mad. But we're going to talk about it in the hotel raid. And I'm sorry, I would have had Diddy in rehab. I'd be like, if you are going to be my client, we are taking you to rehab like right now. And you will come out the day they're going to put handcuffs on you. So you'll be sober. You have a clear mind. That's why when he went in that jail, he was acting a fool with the burner phones and asking people to use their line and this, that, and the other. Because his mind wasn't clear, was still crowded by the drugs. Them drugs done fried the brain. But we'll talk about it. Then we got the twins. Their caretaker was very good friends with Kim Porter. To my understanding, they was all living together. And now she takes care of the kids. She says she known Diddy for 30 years. 30 years she's known Diddy. And she said Al B. Sure need to pretty much shut his mouth because him and Kim Porter was not as close as he's claiming they was before she passed away. That's what she said. Don't be asking Diva. That's what Lawanda, Lala Lane said. Caretaker to the twins. Now I'm going to let y'all listen to it. But somewhere in there, she dropped a little breadcrumb, a little clue. And I said, wait. I said, whoa, what's going on here? She said the kids and everybody around her knew that Kim Porter was sick. And she wants Al B. Sure to stop with the nonsense because she said, what purpose, what would Diddy win by not having the mother of his children in his life? And she said everything Al B. Sure is doing is hurting the kids. And she also said that Kim Porter was not writing no book. That's what she said. Kim Porter wasn't writing a book. I don't know. I got to go by the person that was close in her life. I can't go by my thoughts because there are so much street legends out there that we don't know the truth from a lie. We don't. But y'all know what I need in the chat. I talk so much and it's already late. I need to bring the people on in the building. What do I need in that chat? I need a what? I need a choo-choo. All aboard, everybody. It is Monday night. Am I right? Yeah, Monday night trending topics, and we got stuff to talk about. The title is simple. It is called Wow. Okay, we're doing Diddy trial updates. We're doing a hotel raid the day he got arrested, how they went and they scanned his hotel and they found all kind of substances and snapped the pictures and took the bag of money. Okay? And then we got the twins caretaker speaking out. Now I will say this. Did the friend, Cassie's ex-best friend, she was a very credible witness. She was a credible witness. But again, she was speaking to the violence. But again, there was a little bit of holes in her story. I'm going to be honest with you. This is what I feel. I feel like everybody's telling half the truth, which means they're lying. They're lying. Everybody wants to tell the piece of the truth that makes them look like a superhero in the story. Now, what I'm going to give to Carrie, half the truth. Come on, Don. You know what I will give to Carrie, though? When that hanger went to her head, she said, oh, no, I'm not doing this. Deuces, she was out. And she took herself to the hospital. So I got to give it up to that girl. Because everybody else was staying there, participating in the shenanigans. They wanted the money. They wanted the career. They wanted this. They wanted that. She said deuces. Now, in hindsight, to know she only got $30,000 is sad. But, at least she got out of the situation. Let me bring the people in the building. Come on. She was out of there. Hey, Julius.
Hey, y'all. Hit the like button.
Hit the like button, people. The Divas in the building. I'm doing trending topics. It's a late night. We're going to get this thing done. But do me a favor. Hit that like button. It's 118 of y'all in the building. Only 57 people hit the like button. Do Diva a favor. Hit that like button. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and start with this Diddy update. Okay? Let's go ahead and start with the Diddy update. And Gene Deal was in New York today. Gene Deal was in New York. It's going to be interesting. Now, somebody did it. Gene Deal told them, don't play with me. When Gene Deal was walking into the courtroom, somebody did say to Gene Deal, so you ain't see nothing, you ain't know nothing. What's up with that? Hold on one second. Let me see where I have this story. I hope I have it all queued up. I think I do here. Okay. All right, let's get into this. So Diddy trial highlights the prosecution's winding road. And I do think the road is winding. So let's take a listen.
can make people go missing. And she was asked what she thought that meant, and she said that he would kill people. Okay, so today, an interesting day in the Diddy trial. In a bit, I'm going to talk about Cassie's relationship with Michael B. Jordan, why it bugged Diddy so much. But I want to start with Dawn Richard, who is a member of Danity Kane, who testified today. And I found this really interesting. She was talking about things that she witnessed between Diddy and Cassie, specifically the violence, and that she was warned not to tell anybody about it because Diddy knew Dawn knew. And the way Diddy put it essentially was that he can make people go missing. And she was asked what she thought that meant, and she said that he would kill people. So that had an impact, although again, was that hyperbole? A lot of people say, I'm so mad I could kill you. That doesn't mean they're going to kill them. And you could definitely view that as a threat, but it doesn't mean that people have actually gone missing. At least so far, we have heard no testimony to that effect. I found it really interesting that Dawn, in some ways, echoed what Cassie said on the stand, which is there was this power dynamic that was so askew between Diddy and people who worked for Diddy, like Dawn, like Cassie, and like others. I am not sure how far that's going to get prosecutors because, yes, he definitely had that power dynamic. But at the same time, Dawn and Cassie and others were clearly getting something out of that relationship themselves. So it's not like a husband and wife, where a husband is dominating a woman who has no options, who has nothing um, to allow her to exercise a talent or anything like that. I mean, Cassie benefited from this relationship. I don't see how you can argue she didn't. And so did Dawn. That doesn't mean there wasn't a power dynamic. There was a power dynamic. He had a lot of control over them to the extent they were in his orbit. But when you try to convince a jury that somebody is in a relationship where they are just trapped, but they're benefiting career-wise, financially, and maybe in other ways as well, that does not always work. It's not the same as that kind of classic husband-wife power dynamic. So Dawn was testifying about a couple of really interesting things. She talked about a guy named One Stop, who was the guy who supplied Diddy with lots of drugs, ketamine, cocaine, Molly, weed. And Diddy would get a Louis Vuitton bag, one of those bags, a toiletry bag, and he would put the drugs in there, take it all around the world. And then she was asked, well, did you ever see Diddy pay One Stop money? She said yes. But on cross-examination, they said, you told the government you never saw Diddy pay money to One Stop. And she said, look, I don't remember that. And it's true, witnesses sometimes don't remember. That's an important part for prosecutors because it goes to racketeering, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. She also mentioned guns. She said she has seen Diddy carrying guns around his waist. But then she was asked, did you ever see him brandish a gun? She said no. Did you ever see him shoot a gun? She said no. And again, the specter of all of this is racketeering. I spent a lot of time over the weekend thinking about racketeering. And honestly, I ended this weekend thinking prosecutors could have a problem here. If the jury believes that they are out to get Diddy, that prosecutors just want to find something to nail him, and they reach to racketeering, which is typically organized crime, which is typically like the mafia, where you have a crime organization. And here you have a situation where Diddy is, Diddy is braggadocious. He's threatening. He may be doing things that are really illegal, certainly with drugs, with domestic violence, all of those things illegal. But is it racketeering? And I don't know that the jury is going to say yes. And this is an individual being charged with racketeering. If the jury feels like this is prosecutors trying to get Diddy, I got to tell you, if they feel that way, it could color the prosecution's whole case. That if they think that they just reached for this scary racketeering charge to get him, it could color the way and taint the way they view other charges, which could otherwise be legitimate. So I think this is going to be dangerous territory unless they can really tie this together. I did not see that with Dawn Richards, and frankly, I didn't see it with Cassie when it came to racketeering. Again, we are only 1 week in. They may have many other witnesses who try to tie this together, but I think they tried with Dawn especially, and I just didn't see it. They submitted more evidence today of domestic violence. They talked about Dawn, and they said that Dawn once saw Cassie so badly beaten, her eye was swollen, and Cassie had to go to an event with Dawn in Central Park. And Dawn wore sunglasses, as did Cassie. Cassie wore it to cover her eye. They asked Dawn, why did you wear sunglasses? And she said, solidarity, which I think is powerful. But again, it's domestic violence. He is not being charged with that. Now, there was a witness who was Cassie's former best friend. Her name is Carrie. And this gets into Michael B. Jordan. So Carrie was saying that Cassie had been filming a movie in South Africa. And Michael B. Jordan was there, and there apparently was some flirtation going on. Now, Carrie said she never saw Cassie with Michael, but Diddy felt there was enough smoke there that he got extremely jealous. I don't know what that has to do with this case. I mean, this case is about the interstate transportation of sex workers. It has to do with coercion. It has to do with racketeering. And we're hearing about Diddy's jealousy about Michael B. Jordan. We're hearing about Cassie's jealousy toward Kim Porter. But draw a straight line here. What do those things which are here have to do with the lane in which Diddy is being prosecuted? I'm having trouble with this. And it feels a little bit all over the place. And have they proved that Diddy is a domestic abuser? I think they have. I don't think there's much of a question. I mean, we've seen the 2016 tape, that's enough. But you heap on that the photographs that the jury saw today, that were actually they saw over the last couple of days, where Cassie had a busted lip, she had a swollen eye. They're brutal, they're awful. But again, that's not what this case is about. And when the jury sits down, somebody among those 12 are going to say, yeah, he was a domestic abuser, but here's the jury instruction. Here's what we're supposed to find. And why did we hear all this stuff about domestic violence? At a point, if they feel it was done to dirty him up, again, that could backfire. And that somebody on that jury panel could say, you know, they're trying to make him a monster so we convict him and ignore the requirements, the elements of the various charges. I'm not saying they're going to do that. I'm just saying the more we hear about domestic violence, the more we hear, you know, one of the workers testified at Bad Boy, former worker. He worked 20 hours a day, 6 days a week. Well, I'm sorry about that. But what does that have to do with the price of beans when it comes to these charges? I don't know what that has to do with anything, but this jury is trying to process all of this disparate information. And ultimately, a good case is a story. I'm going to tell you a story that's going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And maybe at times I'll deviate a bit, but I will keep coming back to the main point. And I just have not felt that. And I'm not in the courtroom, I'm here, but looked at the transcripts. And what I'm feeling is it's constantly going like this and sometimes coming back, but a lot of times it's outside the lines. And, you know, to me, the most compelling case is a good storyteller, somebody who has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I'm going to walk you through this so you understand where I'm going. And I feel like right now, the prosecution is kind of all over the place. And I'm not feeling that focus as much as I thought I would. So, look, we are only a week in. A lot can happen. And I will say this, that sometimes telling a story is best told at the end of the case, in closing arguments. And the prosecutor, Ms. Comey, is a great storyteller in closing argument. She has done that in the Ghislaine Maxwell case with great effectiveness, and she's real good at it. But juries also don't want to be confused at the beginning and the middle. Great to tell it at the end, but it feels a little bit confusing right now.
It's a lot confusing right now because they're not connecting the dots. The 6th day of witness testimony in the Diddy trial is in the books. And while there was some more interesting tidbits from Celeb's friends and staffers, it feels like prosecutors are all over the map. Danny Kane singer Dawn Richard was first on the stand Monday, and her testimony seemed to be geared toward one of the main charges against Diddy, racketeering. Sorry about that. Hold on. Dawn testified Diddy made threats about having people killed if they didn't listen to him. And she also told the jury she saw Diddy with guns and drugs, though the defense got her to admit she never saw Diddy use a gun or pay for the substances. Next up, Cassie's former friend, Carrie Morgan, and she testified about Diddy not only assaulting Cassie, but also herself. Diddy's defense hasn't shied away from the domestic violence testimony, but he's not charged with that here. Carrie testified about Diddy being jealous when Cassie started talking to Michael B. Jordan during a break in their relationship. And while that's pretty juicy, we're having a hard time figuring out why that's relevant to a case about RICO, sex trafficking, and prostitution. Former Diddy assistant David James was last to testify. He recalled a couple of convos he had with Cassie, including one where he said she told him, "I can't get out," in response to him asking why she didn't just leave Diddy. Prosecutors have 8 weeks to build their case, but it feels at times they're all over the place and getting away from the basics, and it will be interesting to see how this plays out with a jury. Diddy was engaged once again during testimony, and so was the jury at this time. And the sketch artist Elizabeth Williams told us that Diddy's facial expressions were like and how they changed depending upon what the witnesses were saying. I'll tell you that. We'll get to in a minute. Elizabeth sits closer to Diddy than anyone, so her perspective here is very interesting. Testimony will resume Tuesday when prosecutors are expected to call Cassie's mother as a witness, among others. And again, Cassie's mother is just going to say what? That she witnessed the bruises that her daughter told her would happen. Is she going to explain to us why she never called the cops or why they never really called the cops to try to get her out of this situation? It's going to be interesting to hear from Cassie's mother. Let's take a quick listen.
You're the sketch artist, and you're actually sitting closer to Diddy in the public gallery than anybody. What are you seeing on his face? What are his expressions?
Well, they change from time to time. Depends upon who the witness is and what the testimony is. When it's testimony that he does not like, he will shake his head no. He will look very intently. He will be very serious. And then when the evidence, the testimony is a little bit more positive to him, he will, even today during the break, in the midst of his the cross-examination of Dawn Richard, he even smiled when he was talking to his attorneys because we saw this was his attorney, Nicole Westmoreland. She is cross-examining Dawn Richard, and he is very focused on Westmoreland. Very focused. And so the one thing I want to say overall with Sean Combs, he's an executive. He looks to me like he's really in charge of this case, of his lawyers. He's handing them notes. He's very attentive. And so he's not ignoring anything, even the most difficult testimony that's been, that we've all experienced in the courtroom. He is very focused. And so that's the one thing I would say about him. He's not shied away from anything. He's not shying. He's not putting his hand in his head. I have not yet seen him put his hand. Not once.
Her perspective is interesting because she is, close to him in that courtroom. So right now, to me, the prosecution is still not pulling this thing and wrapping it up nicely with a bow. Yes, they have time, but don't you want to get the people in the beginning, the middle, and the end because you want to get this man locked up if you're the prosecution? Julius, your thoughts?
I'm gonna skip this one, Diva. I'm sorry.
Wayne, your thoughts?
Well, I think he's. I almost lost my thought. Okay, he's like she said, he's an executive, and I can see where she would by her sitting so close to him, and she's looking at features and all that stuff. Because this one picture looked more like him than all the other pictures I've seen. So, I don't think it's going to be 8 weeks. I don't think it's going to be 8 weeks, because they're not even talking about the people, all this, what they have, and they're all over the place. And like I said before, they want to keep on reiterating this stuff that don't really apply to the charges. Sure, it was horrible, but what it got to do with the price of tea in China? But they keep on playing it and putting it out there, all of the domestic, DVs. They keep putting it out there. So at the end, if they don't remember nothing else, they'll remember the domestic violence. And that may sway their decision on where they go with it. That's it.
Yeah, you know what I'm thinking though, like you got racketeering. When you had these mobsters, when you had, all of those individuals on trial for racketeering, they had witness after witness after witness after witness after witness to come testify against these individuals, and it was like a slam dunk. You're saying this man did racketeering. I need some more solid witnesses to come forth. I'm not quite sure how Cassie mother is going to help us, but we'll see what happens when she gets on the stand tomorrow. We get it. And I don't think, to me, the last thing you need to corroborate, because we got a video from that 2016 hotel footage of Cassie getting beat down, and you already had about 2 to 3 other individuals saying Diddy would just put his hands on her for no apparent reason because she didn't do this right, she didn't do that. Do we really need another person confirming that Cassie got beat down? And I'm saying that respectfully. So to me, if you got a solid slam dunk case, you need to start bringing person after person up there that say he drugged me to Florida to have a freak off and I didn't want to go. When I got there, he shoved the drugs down my throat and forced me to take drugs. And now as a result, I'm a full-blown drug addict in recovery and I'm 40 days sober. We need those individuals. But Katrina, your thoughts?
Hello, panel, Diva, and chat. If they don't land this plane, Diddy gonna get away unless they change these charges, which I don't think they could do with another charge. He's gonna get up because there's no racketeering. They're just showing that he's an abusive person. They haven't said that he brought this person across state lines. They haven't said that he brought these substances across state lines. The ones they're interviewing, they can't keep they can't keep their story straight, or they're telling half and half truth. So if they don't tie this thing up, or maybe they trying to let the jury see that he's a DV abuser and trying to paint him in the worst light as ever, I can get that. But the thing of it is, they need to start bringing in the racketeering thing, and we go from there. But as for now, the only thing they're showing us is that he's domestic violence. That's it. That's all we getting. But we'll see how it lands, Diva. We'll see how it goes. That's
We'll
all I
see.
got.
Thank you. I appreciate you. We're gonna see. Yeah, we need to get to the meat and potatoes. You ain't never lie, please. Please, because we don't heard enough with all of this. Yep. There you go. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll into this next story. The next story, which was a shocker to me, was when they raided his hotel room the night they arrested him. The amount of stuff that they found in his room is a little shocking to me. Shocking, not because it's been said, and now I guess you could say proven that this man was on the substances really bad, really heavy. So it wouldn't shock me if they found out in his room and it was just a random find. But it's shocking to know that you came to New York to turn yourself in and you still came here, still taking all of this stuff. To me, it's an epic fail on his lawyer's part, because they should have had him in rehab. At least I will say this with the Real Housewives of Potomac, the Grand Dame, Karen Huger, they did try to put her in a rehab right before she went to the jail or get to go for her sentencing. So they tried all the stunts. It was a day late and a dollar short, but they did try it. Diddy should have been in rehab. In March, they raided his homes. March of 2024, they raided his homes. And when they caught him at the airport near his private jet, getting ready to take his daughters on spring break, the alleged drug mill was with them, had all these substances. They arrested him, let Diddy go ahead and do his thing. And you know what's interesting too? They didn't give him bail because they said he was going to be a huge flight risk. But yet the day they raided his homes, caught him at the airport, about to go on vacation, they let him go ahead and go. This case is full of holes. It's the foolery. But let me go ahead and share screen so we can get into this story. So Diddy trial, the hotel room photos from arrest. There was drugs, there was baby oil, there was cash. I'm not quite sure why they was allowed to take his cash. Federal agents testified they found drugs, baby oil, lubricant, and cash stashed in Diddy's New York City hotel room after his September 2024 arrest. They took photos as evidence, and now we're seeing what they found. All right, so you got, I guess that's 3 bottles or maybe 4 bottles of baby oil. I don't know if the black cap one is baby oil too. Listen, this man liked this baby oil. And I think the green one that has that aloe vera in it, who knows? Maybe the man was using that for his body. I don't know. Dozens of photos from inside Diddy's hotel room from the Park Hyatt Hotel in New York City have now been entered as exhibits in the case, and we compiled some of the most interesting images for you to see. Now, let me say this too. Also, I said when they raided this man home, they didn't have enough. I said that way back when, and this is proof they didn't have enough. Why would you need these photos from the hotel that ain't showing us nothing? What is this really saying? So you got a prescription med there. I guess you got the pink powder. You got a pill there. He had it bad. In new legal docs obtained by TMZ, the feds say they recovered 2 clear plastic Ziploc bags and an orange prescription bottle. And inside the baggies were pink solid material. The feds said one bag tested positive for ketamine and the other tested positive for MDMA and ketamine. The bags were actually shown in court last week during testimony from the Department of Homeland Security agent Yazin Binda. And the bags with the pink drugs were passed from juror to juror. I don't know, like, why would they need to pass these drugs around the juror to juror? This is crazy. There go the money he had in there, had some Visine, I guess to get the eyes, get the red out the eyes. Bender also showed a fanny pack with $9,000 in cash inside, which Bender says was recovered from Diddy's hotel room. And there's a photo showing the cash in these exhibits. Did they take that cash? $9,000 for Diddy is like pennies on the dot. It's nothing. Now you ain't never gonna catch me with no $9,000 no fanny pack, because that's just crazy. But $9,000 in a fanny pack for Diddy is nothing. They said Frank Black was his pseudonym name for his prescriptions, and I don't know how doctors are allowed to give out these prescriptions in fake names. See, call this doctor. Let me see. Let me say doctor authorized. I'm trying to see. It says no refills. It tells it look like the address is on there. I'm trying to see if the doctor's name is on here. The doctor that prescribed this, because they need to talk to this doctor. Are you prescribing drugs in a fake name? The DHS agent testified a bottle of prescription medication, clozapam, was found in an orange prescription bottle made out to Frank Black. Cassie testified that that was an alias Diddy used, and we see this bottle in the photos. Bender's show and tell with the jury also featured bottles of Astroglide, lubricant, and Johnson baby oil, and those appeared to be in the photos as well. TMZ broke the story. Federal agents arrested Diddy at the Park Hyatt Hotel on September 16, 2024, after he was indicted by a grand jury. Now, I will say this. I guess at the very least, his older sons, I'm saying older sons, but his sons probably knew that their dad had a substance abuse problem, because it was all over the hotel room. And then you have back there that was Christian Combs with him when he got arrested. We previously obtained video of his arrest showing him entering the lobby from the street in a black trench coat before being swarmed by law enforcement. So none of that stuff should have been in his room. His lawyer should have had a sober coach with him, and they should have had him in rehab before they brought him to New York, or prepared to bring him to New York, to be arrested. Julius, your thoughts?
Golly, his lawyer failed here. He shouldn't have been on those substances when the law enforcement came to arrest him in September. It's like what we talk about. You gotta act like you Mr. Clean, squeaky clean. He did this to himself, yes, but you know what? The lawyer has a fault in this as well.
Wayne, your thoughts? Oh, we lost Wayne. Katrina, your thoughts?
Yeah. You left out one important thing. They also found items, I guess, belonging to a woman. But either or, I don't think Diddy think that he was going to be locked up. I believe he thought that he had the money. His lawyer probably told him, you got money, you can bail out, you can go home, whatsoever. His thought was he wasn't going to get locked up. He thought he was going back home.
He
And
did.
the feds surprised him because they found out he didn't think the feds knew his rooms. The feds found out what room he was in, and they was waiting for him to walk through that door. They surprised him. He thought he was going to turn himself in on his own, but the feds came up on him before that happened. And you're right. All that stuff, maybe that's the reason why they took the money, because they said it was some women accessories or something was there for a woman. I don't know. I don't know if he
But
brought.
again, what's the crime if some woman was in his room? What's the crime?
Yeah, I don't know, but that's what they were saying. And I don't know if he brought the woman across state lines. They didn't say that part either. But they said they had some women's stuff in there. And like you said, he's a man. And if he got a woman off the street, whatever, I mean, that's him. But yeah, what I was saying is I don't think he thought that he was going to get locked up that day. I think he thought that he was going to pay that bill and he was going to be out of there. But they had a whole different story for him, and he never got back out, because there's no way in my mind that this man would have went there thinking, knowing that he's on these substances, knowing about the withdrawals or whatsoever, that he went and went to rehab first. He didn't expect to be locked up, and they surprised the heck out of him and kept him in. But that's all I got.
All right, we're gonna the prescription is something that the prosecution used as part of the enterprise because a doctor prescribed him medication under that name Cassie testified that Diddy was used to get. Yeah, but yeah, the what do you call it? The doctor needs to get locked up. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This case is weak because what's his name? Prince was addicted to prescription drugs, and when he went to pick up his drugs right before he died, it was under a pseudonym name. We need better. Come on now, KW. We need better if you're doing RICO charges. We need better. I'm gonna roll right into this last story. And the last story is, the caretaker for Diddy's twins. And she's pretty much saying the pharmacists wouldn't necessarily know. They wouldn't necessarily know that, this prescription says Diva, but it really is for somebody else. They wouldn't know that, the pharmacist. And if you come to pick up your prescription and you don't have to show ID when you're picking up a prescription. You just got to say your name, your date of birth, and blah, blah, blah. And you claim that's who you are. Then you pay for it and you keep it going. Now, unless you're picking up a narcotic prescription, then you're going to have to show some ID. Let me go ahead so we can go right into this last story, because I'm doing good with time here. I'm loving it. Yeah, the pharmacist wouldn't have a clue. So Lawanda, Lala Lane, I'll be sure, is spreading misinformation about Kim Porter's death. Is hurtful to Diddy's kids. So let's take a listen. I'm sorry, y'all.
When you first saw the metallic sneakers,
I'll skip this ad as soon as I can. Okay, so Diddy's sex trafficking and racketeering trial is undeniably weighing heavily on his family, but his Chauvin's caretaker is showing everyone the entire Combs clan are nothing but troopers. We'll take a look.
Do you think it's official based on these photos?
I don't know why it skipped over. Okay, here it is. Okay, I'll wait till it cues back up. Lawanda Lala Lane joined TMZ Live on Monday to discuss the day-to-day operations since Diddy was hauled off to jail last year to wait for his trial, which got started 2 weeks ago. The embattled music moguls twins, Jesse and Delilah, just stepped out for their senior prom. And Lala says, hold on, we're there now.
Beyond difficult for these twins to kind of hear what they heard, knowing everybody else heard it too, and then they tried to kind of blend in at the prom. So, I mean, I can only imagine how difficult.
All his children are very smart and bright kids. These girls make straight A's. We focus on God first. They go to school. They lead a normal life. Kim's family, his family, Kim's closest friends. We keep a close circle. That's their father, and they know their father one way. We deal with it as a family, and we move forward. Our faith in God leads us and keeps us going. And it's not a discussion for us around here the way it is for the rest of the world. We really value our family time. We value privacy and keeping all the children focused on just living their life and being normal.
I wonder, though, about when they go to school, because obviously I'm sure they have their close circle of friends who are protective of them, but you know how kids are at that age in high school. There are going to be people who want to taunt them. Is that something that they are dealing with, or do they have a...
No, they go to a great school where there are a lot of other kids who have issues with families, celebrity families. The school is very protective. It has been a blessing. They have been there since kindergarten. A lot of kids, they have grown up since kindergarten. I've been there with them, with their mom. So is a couple other friends. We're very close. So it doesn't affect the way everyone else feels that it has. Is it sad or we're disappointed in things? Absolutely. But we their mother and their dad taught them, you have to keep going, you know, and what we talk about in privacy is, you know, our business.
Their relationship with their dad. I mean, this is somebody who was present in their life, and for many months now, he's been locked up. And, you know, who knows what's going to happen with the trial. If he's found guilty, he could be in prison for many, many years. They've already lost their mom. How are they coping with this?
Listen, all the children, we have started these process of talks a long, long time ago. So for the rest of the world, this is shocking and upsetting and things like that. We have done family therapy. We have done things as a group. We stick together. Nobody wants to see something like that happen to their father. They know their father a certain way. I've known their dad 30 years. So, you know, as a lot of things, I know a lot more, but that's just not our focus here. And they're very strong enough to say, you know, this is my dad. And we understand it, but we have to move forward. It can't be a crutch. It can't be, you know, the worst thing that has happened is we've all lost Kim. That was devastating. We had to get through that, and we did, all of us together.
Albie Shore, right before the trial started, did an interview where he pointed the finger pretty clearly at Diddy, claiming that he had something to do with Kim's death. And I know that's got to be upsetting. As you said, the girls got through that.
Let me be very clear on Kim's passing. That nobody but her closest friends and our children were there. To speak so recklessly on stuff that you know nothing about. You saw that woman 2 months before for an hour. You were not friends. You did not have a discussion, is wrong. Is wrong to her children, wrong to her family. Her father is still alive. Is wrong to us, her friends who have been there and were there taking care of her. No one expected this. For the world to take on this narrative and this craziness, what is the benefit for Sean to not have the mother of his kids? There is no benefit. That is not, you know, she was not writing a book. That was not Kim's mental state about anything. That's our business. She was our friend. That was somebody's daughter. That's somebody's granddaughter that her grandmother just passed. Like, and her children, she had kids who knew she was not well. So that's.
Did y'all hear that? She had kids who knew she was not well. That part struck a chord in me. But let's finish.
It's just, you know, I get very upset because I don't understand how people can just talk about something they have no idea about anything. None.
Lawanda Lala Lane joined TMZ Live on Monday to discuss the day-to-day operations since Diddy was hauled off to jail last year to wait for his trial, which got started 2 weeks ago. The embattled music mogul twins, Jesse and Delilah, just stepped out of their senior prom, and Lala says they're straight A students and says faith in God is the dominant theme in the household. From the sound of things, their school has also been supportive. They're not the only celebrity kids enrolled with parent problems. The world has been enthralled with Diddy's trial in the aftermath of Cassie and Don Richard's testimony. But Lala said his kids only see their dad in one light, and discussing the case isn't top of mind. As Kim Porter's BFF, Lala has been closely caring for Diddy's kids since her untimely death in 2018. And one thing she's not going to do is beat around the bush with Albie Shore. The R&B singer who fathered Kim's firstborn son, Quincy, recently gave an interview placing the blame on Diddy. Yet Lala says Al and Kim weren't as close as he's claiming, and says Diddy has nothing to gain from her being dead. She says Al's constant public posturing is harmful to Diddy's children, and she also denied the long-standing rumor that Kim was in the process of writing a tell-all book. Diddy's kids have also echoed the same sentiments. They just want their dad home. And then they tell you could catch the full interview on TMZ Live. It's a lot going on here. And then what it says, if she said Kim was not well, Kimora never said she was ill, and they were close. But this Lala was living with Kim Porter. I don't think I don't know if we're ever going to really truly know the truth. Come on now, Bernita. Rumors can destroy people's lives. That's a fact right there. That's a whole fact. Rumors can destroy people's lives. Julius, your thoughts?
Okay. I'm finding her believable.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why. I feel like I've been feeling for a while, I'll be sure is a problem. And if we're going to talk about it, we did a segment on the show and we read and we went over Quincy's letter. I believe he did it in his late teens.
Mm-hmm.
And in that letter, if I'm right, I'm paraphrasing. Forgive me, y'all, because it's been a while. He said, "Can you stop with all of this? This is hurting me. You claim to love me, but you're doing this. If you love me, please stop." And I say that he always speaks about my son, my son, my son. You say you love your son, but why are you doing this? And so I do find this woman believable because I feel like she was the main caretaker. She was in the mix of everything. And like we've been saying here on the panel, and I'm going to give Diddy credit in this regard.
Mm-hmm.
He is a good father. Them kids love him. And that, I'm going to be very, very consistent. I'm not going to take away from him. Because I have a cousin who had went to Quincy's, I think, 16th birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
And she told, because me and her texted, nope, it was his 14th. And she told me he was the most respectful person. And she said Diddy did a real good job with him. And y'all, a person can be a monster in public, but an amazing father behind the scenes. And it's just like, just her little tidbit at the end. Kim's close circle knew that she was sick. I'm starting to believe that too. Because none of them are really opening their mouths about her, but only I'll be sure. And I'm glad she called him out in the way that she did. You only seen her for an hour, but yet you claim she was the love of your life that got away. There's a reason why you wasn't around Quincy. There's a reason why she broke it off with you, and I'm starting to believe he was the abusive one. That's it.
Thank you. Katrina, your thoughts?
I'm sorry, Julian, but a good father doesn't hit the mother of their kids. A good father will keep their kids on the straight and narrow and not showing them things that he's doing while he's partying and they're following in his footsteps. A good father is going to make sure that his kids are protected. He don't put them in harm. He was getting ready to get on a plane with substances. A good father most definitely would never hurt the mom of the person that gave them their children life. How you gonna beat the mom but you gonna love the kids? Don't work that way. Doesn't work that way. And he's been going around beating up all these women. He's been beating up all these women. And with this woman, I thought for sure that Kimora had those kids for a while. I thought she was watching those kids for a while. So where was she when Kimora had these girls? Like I said, I'm not there. I didn't see anything, don't know anything. But one thing I do know, if a man gonna hit the mama, I'm not gonna say he don't love his children, but I'm just gonna say that you can't be a good father if you causing harm to the one that gave your children life. That's all I got, Diva.
Oh, thank you so much. Listen, guys, it's a lot connected to this story. We're gonna stay to this Diddy trial till we get the verdict, okay? So y'all know the routine. If you didn't hit that like button on the way in, do me a favor, hit the like button on the way out. Thank y'all for hanging in with me with these late night trains. The train should be back on track mid next week or something like that. But I appreciate y'all. Hit that like button. I'll see you in the next video. Good night and goodbye, everybody.
Good night, y'all. Oh, you